Hey, boy, it's okay if I wear my hat, it's kind of chilly in here.
Oh,
You know about that?
what?
Hey, sir.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you who are watching at home, you're wondering where we are. We had a plumbing incident at City Hall, and it flooded our building. It flooded some of the upstairs, but
Well, good.
the council chambers downstairs.
Good.
It flooded the council chambers downstairs. And so we will probably be meeting here until after the first of the year. We're at our expo center on the east side of town, and we're here to take care of business, and we'll still be able to record and show up to everyone live. Anyway, we always proceed each council meeting with a word of prayer and the pledge of allegiance. If you'd like, please feel free to join us. Father in heaven, we thank you for another great day in the city. We thank you, Lord, for your grace, your mercy, your love. We thank you for your awesome power. We pray for all our decisions tonight, that it would be in accordance with your will. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I'll call this meeting to order. Ms. Hurd, would you call roll, please?
Mr. Hawkins?
Here.
Mr. Grimes?
Here.
Mr. Cummins?
Here.
Ms. Mel? Here. Mr. Ledbetter?
Where'd you go?
He's out of town.
Okay, Ms. Webb?
3 and 4 are
Here. Mr. Jones?
Charles.
Here.
Ms. Isby? Here.
And we have a new council member tonight. Everyone, if you've lived in Conway for any period of time, or you've had anything to do with UCA, or the Conway Public School District, or state education, we'll recognize Mr. Woody Cummins. Woody, welcome. Glad to have you. You should have received copies of the October 24th, 2023 council minutes. Any corrections, changes, or additions?
Make a motion for approval as submitted. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you much. First up, we have community development. Mr. Hawkins, sir, you are up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on this portion of the agenda is consideration to approve waiving all the readings for ordinances on tonight's agenda, and that would be items A2, A3, A5, B1, B2, B3, B4, and B5. And I take a motion to waive those readings.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings for tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd, would you call the vote, please?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance accepting and appropriating donation funds for the Code Enforcement Department. And good evening.
Evening, sir. So in October, Faulkner County Landlord Association was nice enough to give code enforcement $225. And this is meant for bring car covers to some inoperable vehicles in town to get those in compliance. Right now, one of our only really resources to get a car into compliance is to tow it, and this way we can kind of help families out by giving them a car cover. So this is $225 from the donation account in the general fund over to Public Works miscellaneous expense account.
Any questions? Ms. Hart, what's that ordinance number?
The O-2392.
92 is the ordinance number.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance. Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Appreciate that, Mr. Clausen. Thank you all. Ms. Hurd.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Ms. Webb? Aye. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance to waive competitive bid process for the purchase of a new vehicle for the Conway Transportation Department. And, hey, Kurt, would you tell us about this?
I will, absolutely. So we have a
We actually had a new pickup truck budgeted for this year. Normally we would get these through Sourcewell. However, the wait time on Sourcewell right now is currently a year. We actually found one on the lot here that's identical to the spec'd vehicle that we were looking for on Sourcewell, and it's actually cheaper than the Sourcewell vehicle. And so we're asking the council to waive the competitive bidding process and let us go ahead and purchase this truck.
So where was the truck? What lot?
I'm sorry?
Which lot? Who was buying?
It's the Ford.
Smith Ford.
Smith
Yeah.
Ford?
Smith
I like
Ford.
buying local.
Yeah, it's a local dealer.
Good.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance 02393.
With an emergency clause.
Oh, I'm sorry, along with the emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance with the emergency clause. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd?
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Webb? Aye. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
And the emergency clause, Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Webb? Aye. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Those both pass 7-0.
Thank you.
Mr. Hawkins? You
Dr.
can stay
Cummins,
up there.
Dr.
I'm gonna
Cummins?
stay.
How am I doing so far?
Oh, I'm impressed.
Am I doing all right? Is it like you remembered? All right. Next item is resolution to approve the Salem Road Bridge project. Mr. Grimes and I like to see this for the Transportation Department. And Kurt?
Yes, sir. So this project, actually, this has been in the works for a while. It predates me. I've been working here a little over 4 years. And most of y'all are probably aware of the process we've gone through and the struggles with this project. We originally bid this project in March of this year. We got no bidders. The second time we bid it, we had one bidder, and it was the bid amount for in April was almost $11 million. It was $10,900,000. This time around, we did reduce the scope of the project for this third time around. We figured we were going to have to do something to get this thing within a reasonable budget. We narrowed the bridge a little bit. This project will now involve closing Salem Road during the construction of the bridge. The bid amount, the low bid, we actually got 2 bids this time around, and the low bid that we're asking the council to award is $8,302,000. So, and if you got any questions about the project, I'd be happy to.
Explain the Metro Plan part of it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so this is a Metro Plan funded project. We've got a grant through Metro Plan for $3 million. So actually, our cost of the project would be $5.3 million.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
It's not criticized. Lowering the price, how did that affect the integrity of the bridge?
It won't at all. Are you talking? What we did in lowering the price, the way that we got the project, and we reduced the cost $2.5 million. We're not overbuilding the bridge. Okay. Originally, the plan was to build the bridge wider than it's needed in order to keep it open. So we kind of build it half at a time, which would be a significant cost increase. I would also like to point out that this is going to replace a bridge that, currently it's reached its useful life. It's going to have to be replaced. It doesn't currently have bike lanes or sidewalks. And the other key aspect of this bridge is that not only will there be bike lanes and sidewalks, but this will create the grade separation for Kinley Trail, so that we no longer have that at-grade crossing, and greatly increase the safety at that location.
Yeah, I wouldn't question that, because I just.
No, it's the same bridge
Yeah,
structure.
it
It's
needs
just,
to be
it's not
redone.
going to be as wide.
Okay.
But it'll have all the other, the bridge, the original project, the bridge, there was going to be some extra width there that would never really be utilized.
Okay.
But it was, you know, we wanted to try to do it that way because, you know, Salem Road obviously is a heavily traveled road. And if we could keep it open, we would love to keep it open, but unfortunately, you know, $2.5 million to keep the road open is a little steep.
Do we have an estimated start date?
Yes, as soon as we get, we're gonna try our best to get started by the first of the year.
Okay.
Because, you know, one of the components of the Metro Plan grant is to, you know, get it started this year. So that's our plan. It is a 210 calendar day project, so once we start, it'll be 7 months. The road won't be closed. We don't anticipate the road being closed for 7 months. There's a lot of work that can be done prior to actually closing the road. And then, you know, it's possible at some point the road will be opened up before the project is 100% complete as well. So we don't anticipate the road being closed that entire 7 months. But our plan is to get it started this year.
Thank you.
And this is going to take the bike lanes underneath?
The trail, yes, sir. The Kinley Trail will go underneath the roadway there, similar to what we've got at,
Country Club.
yes.
The original ask was to be able to keep Salem Road open, but for 2.5 million, we just may have to take 7 months. Folks not being happy, but once it's complete, Salem Road is gonna be nice.
You'll probably be happy with the savings, huh?
Yeah.
And we will have bike lanes?
Yes, sir. There will be bike lanes and sidewalks on the bridge.
Okay.
And it'll be part of, now we've got there's a continuation of this project that will actually be the Salem Road Improvement Project from Dave Ward up to College. And that'll be phase 2 of this project, and design is being completed on that project right now. It will continue the bike lanes and sidewalks all over, Salem.
It's gonna be a lot like Donaghy. There's gonna be some pains getting there, but the finished product is really gonna help us move traffic, and it's gonna make Salem Road a much safer, nicer street. From College to Dave Ward.
Was that $11 million, Kurt, that was bid back in April, was that the full width of the bridge?
It was so, and when I'm saying width, I'm talking the roadway width, not the, the length, obviously, but that was the $2.5 million. Well, first of all, this is a precast bridge structure, so the precast units were gonna have to be wider. So you had some extra cost in there, but one of the big cost issues was just the construction staging to actually go in there and, the plan was to go in there and build, enough of the bridge that you could get two-way traffic while keeping the existing bridge open, and then you come back in and complete it after you get the first section. So you're kind of doing it half at a time, which, construction-wise, it would be a longer construction schedule. It would be more complicated, and, thus the cost was being driven up as a result of that.
We're not being short-sighted, are we? Looking at Salem Road from stem to stern.
No, sir. So like I said, the width, it's extra width that would never be utilized.
I'm talking about from Highway 64 down to Dave Ward Drive. I'm talking about that stem to stern rather than the width of the road.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no widening of that road to a 3 or 4 lane situation?
Well, it will be a 3-lane road, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
Mhm.
okay. Thank you.
Good question, Mr. Hawkins.
I make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution for the Salem Road Bridge project. Any further discussion?
What number is that, please?
R 2368.
Thank you.
Ms. Hunter?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins?
Final item here, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance to approve the permit regulations for the right-of-way, street and curb ordinance for the Transportation Department. Kurt, this is your show tonight.
It is. This is my final one tonight, so.
Let me get a little heat off Kurt on this. This is something that I asked Charles, Kurt, and Jacob to look at quite a while back. As you all know, you all aware, we passed a sales tax, 3/8 of 1% in 2017. that had a 5-year sunset, that did sunset when the time came and went away. But we have spent that money on our streets in Conway, trying to bring them up, repave them, build roundabouts, curb and gutter, sidewalks. But we've never really taken a stand on what are we gonna do about all of our street cuts. And we know that has to happen. I mean, utilities are there, there's all kinds of utilities underground, there's emergencies that happen, and those things have to be done. But we go out and we build a new street, and within 2 weeks, on one of them, we had 8 cuts. And what we're wanting to do here is just get it where we can, once a year, if I'm speaking right, Kurt, because once a year, we'll bring in a private contractor to come in and go back over all these patched up places that we have on different streets in the city, using the money that we have for this, if this passes tonight, using that money to go back and smooth all that out and making our streets smooth. And it's not just about making them smooth. Anytime you cut a street, you've affected the integrity of that street. So that's kind of, so I asked them to look at this. They've met with some of the folks in our utility business that do this type of work, and they've all come to understand what we're trying to do here. So with that being said, Kurt, now I'll hush and turn it over to you.
Okay, well, you did a good job of explaining the thought process. So, in just a little history, the current street or right-of-way work ordinance that we're working under is from 1968. Things have changed a little bit since 1968. You know, as the mayor mentioned, you know, we have an issue, and you don't have to drive down too many streets in Conway to come across a street cut. In our thought process in kind of formulating this ordinance is, it's, you know, there's 2 components of this. There's one, just a fee, you know, a permit fee, and that's whether you're cutting the right of way, it's just or blocking the road, or doing excavation work in our right of way, maybe not cutting the pavement. There's a fee of $75. The 1968 fee, I believe, was $5. So, you know, we thought we needed to update that a little bit. And then the other component of this is actually more or less it's a damage fee. If they actually cut the pavement, and it's based on the square footage of the pavement, and we think it's very reasonable. But, you know, as the mayor mentioned, anytime a street is cut, regardless of how well it's patched, that street is damaged, and you've affected its lifespan. You know, at some point, you know, earlier than we would have originally had to, we're going to have to come in and overlay that street and correct it. So that's where this secondary fee, and that's only if you're actually cutting the pavement. And this ordinance will also serve to kind of consolidate our driveway permit and culvert permits and just general right-of-way permit. But I'd be happy to answer any questions. There are provisions in this, you know, for, you know, hardships, for you know, maybe persons of, you know, with limited, income, where we have the authority to waive some of these fee requirements if you know, the property owner has to have their street cut in order to get a service from one of the utilities. So, you know, there are provisions in there for that. And it doesn't, you know, we're not going to require any kind of permit fee for just routine maintenance, like, you know, tree trimming, you know, water line flushing, and that type of thing. I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of y'all have about it.
Our long-term goal for this is to work with all the utilities and get utilities out from under our streets.
That's
to start with.
And the goal of this is, and that's another, a key component of this ordinance is to encourage utilities to stay out of the street.
And that's a long-term goal, you know, because there's a lot of infrastructure that's in great shape right now. There's no reason to move it. So, but as you have large-scale instances with our utilities where they're having to move large areas and getting it up out of the right of way, or into the right of way and out the street, that save a lot of this in the long-term future. I won't be around for it, Theo.
Why'd you keep calling my name?
Because I figured you'd understand.
But you're not gonna be around, you know I'm not gonna be around.
But anyway, do y'all have any questions for Mr. Jones, or I think Kurt's here too? Yeah. I'm sorry, Kurt, Jacob.
I don't see a maximum number on here. I see a minimum number on here of $500.
There is actually a,
I'm in section 10, permitting
D,
process.
item D, yeah,
Page 6.
well, I mean, there's not going to be a maximum number on it.
That's good.
But let me point out that at some point, and there is a clause in here, and I believe it's under the section 12, it's on page 8, Mr. Hawkins, F, paragraph F there. So in situations where a street is, at some point, the calculated fee is probably going to exceed, what it would cost to come in and just overlay that section of street. And at some point, this clause is going to get triggered, and we're going to waive the fee, and they're just going to have to come in and overlay the whole block.
Just to get through.
So,
It's not.
Will you make that call?
yes, yeah, that'll be our decision.
Your call.
Mhm.
Council, back to you.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance 02394. Second?
Have a motion, a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Webb? Aye. Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Passes 7-0, and I'd like to thank the street department, Charles,
Thank you.
and our utilities that work together on this. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, next we have public safety, and first up we have ordinance to waive the competitive bid process and approve the purchase of that new data equipment for the IT department. Sean.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
So we're asking for the waiving of competitive bids for some data infrastructure. It's already a budgeted item for this year, but the issue we ran into is just like several others, is lead time on this particular product. And we're looking at up to a year, if not longer, on some of the HP Aruba switches. And we have found an alternative that we've already deployed some of the switches throughout the city. And we're looking at a few weeks of lead time there, plus we're saving over $76,000 in the process. So,
Well, I can sit right here and act like I know what you're talking about. What kind of switches are we talking about? For the folks who are watching.
these are infrastructure switches that go in the data center. So the day-to-day operations that the city employees go through on their computer. In this particular situation, we're actually increasing the amount that we're able to get, as well as how fast that data communication goes back and forth between city departments, up to 4 times faster. So it allows that transfer of data back and forth. It allows you to do your jobs.
Thank you. Council, back to you. Or any questions?
Move for adoption of the ordinance.
I did add the emergency
And the emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion, I'm sorry, we have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance with the emergency clause. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
Ms. Webb? Aye. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
What'd you say?
She said Mr. Cummins.
I can't hear, it's echoing, y'all.
It is a- She calls your name, Mr. Jones.
Now it's your turn.
Mr. Jones?
Same thing, yes.
And Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
In the emergency clause, there's an emergency clause.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Webb? Emergency clause?
I'm so sorry. Aye.
It's hard to hear here.
It is.
It
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
I was reading.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Those both passed, 7-0. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Next up is an ordinance appropriating reimbursement funding for the Conway Police Department. Chief Tapper. Good evening, Chief.
Hello. Very good. So we have received reimbursements for things such as extra duty and task force, restitution, and we're just asking for those amounts to be placed in the proper categories.
Make a motion for adoption of the ordinance 02396.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next up is an ordinance appropriating funding from the Connect and Protect grant for the Conway Police Department.
So this is the grant that we talked about last year that started our crisis intervention unit. And we accepted a $542,000 grant from the federal government, a partial matching grant. And so this is just coming back in this year and appropriating the city funds for that matching part of it, and then drawing the federal funds for that grant for this next year. By the way, this has been a huge success. I was talking to Lieutenant Johnson today, and he's saying that in November, we're answering up to 13 calls a day, and that's in a 10-hour shift for those units. So it's been really good. One thing that I would encourage you to start thinking about is that this grant does end in another year, and at that point, what are we as a city going to do to continue it? We are looking at other grants to try to replace this one. You know how grants are. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. But I think that this particular program has proven its worth not only to the police department, but to the community. So I hope that you guys will start considering what we need to do in the future for that.
Well, the need is there, and y'all have proven that it's working, it's successful, so
Yeah, the data. We'll have the data to prove it.
Yes.
we appreciate the police department for getting on board with that and following through. It's been a tremendous success.
It's a great group of people that are working it.
Yes, it is. Council, back to you.
I will make a motion for approval of the ordinance 02397.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd.
Ms. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Passes 7-0. Next, we have an ordinance approving the reclassifications of positions within the police department. Chief?
So you may know, you may not know, that Lacey Knipe, our public information officer, left us about a week ago, and she has moved on to the state police in another position, and we wish her all the luck. She's been great while she's been here. But what I decided to do when she left is to make that position a sworn position. It takes a significant amount of time to train a civilian on how a police department works and things that we will release, things that we won't release. And in the midst of an emergency, it's important that we have somebody there that can operate that on their own. That way, others of us can address the emergency that is taking place. So I think that is a big step. In doing that, that leaves us with the PIO salary. I would like to take that PIO salary as well as an admin assistant that is in CID and create some new positions that will help us in the Criminal Investigations Division. And what those are they're going to be one that is an assistant sex offender coordinator and a victim services position. It's been needed for quite some time. The other is an investigations assistant and a crime scene specialist. Now that has two different levels, a 1 and a 2. The 1 would be the initial placement of that person. The 2 would be after they've attended a course to be trained as a crime scene tech. Right now we go through CJI when we do that, and it's at least a year out to be able to get somebody into that position. But what this will do is it will allow us to take civilian personnel to supplement our detectives, which will mean a cost savings to the city, and will also reduce the workload that we have on our detectives at this time. So I'm asking you to reclassify those two positions into the new ones.
Any questions for the chief? No.
Move for adoption of the ordinance.
Second?
Have a motion and a second to adopt this.
And the emergency
With the
clause.
emergency clause?
With the
Yes.
emergency clause, second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Hurd?
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
And the emergency clause, Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Those vote passed 7-0. Well, council, it's hard to believe it's this time of year again, but we're back tonight with operations, appropriating funding for Operation Shock Secure in Conway. The Christmas season is here. Chief Tapley.
It is. This is our annual operation to put officers in the shopping areas around Conway during the shopping season. We normally run that from the day after Thanksgiving until Christmas. It comes with a price tag, as anything else does, and this $60,000 will pay the overtime for the officers to put those in those positions.
Second?
Have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance for Operation Shop Secure for Conway Police Department. Any further discussion? How many years have we been doing this, Chief?
Oh, wow.
It's, I think it
I
started,
think it's
started
longer
with,
than
it
that.
started with
I was
Mayor
thinking
Townsend.
It's been longer than that.
Has it been longer than that?
Yeah, it's been at least 10.
Yeah. It's been a while. It's been,
It is, and it gives an opportunity for the officers to meet people in a non-enforcement fashion, and that goes a long ways too.
Ms. Hurd.
O-2399, Mr. Cummins? Mr. Grimes? Mr. Jones? Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
That passes 7-2. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Council? Thank you, Chief. Unless there's something else y'all like to discuss, no, that's all we have. Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second?
We are adjourned.